all free, thanks to our sponsors, the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Fest, as well as the Academy of American Poets, who provided the funding to allow us to do all these events free. Be sure to go to our site at nolapoetry.com. You can find our calendar there. We have events almost every single day. And all of our links to our Zoom rooms and Facebook Live are also there. So it's really easy to navigate into these rooms. Tonight we have a reading from Tilted House. Tilted House is a small and new publishing company from New Orleans. They have an online publishing site that you can go to at tiltedhouse.org. And throughout the pandemic, I think they did a really great job of uploading and putting a lot of poems out there, creating community at a time when it was really hard to create community. So I'm really proud of them. Cameron is someone who actually had his press at the Dragonfly, which was a studio I ran in New Orleans prior to the pandemic. So I got to see Cameron work a lot and do what he does, and it's very awesome. I'm a huge fan. So I will bring Cameron up now, and he will go ahead and introduce our readers, and we'll have a great New Orleans reading. Thank y'all for joining us.
Awesome. Thank
Cameron?
you, Matt. Yeah, thanks, Jonathan, for doing this technical stuff, and Megan and Bill and Jessica for asking for this to happen. Yeah, my name is Cameron Lovejoy. I'm the editor of Tilted House, and it's kind of been a big labor of big love for a little while, and it's kind of becoming real for the first time in the past year. And it started out as kind of a commission-based thing, and now it's we have 3 printed books already, 3 published books, and also a web magazine. So it's really coming along, and it's just getting bigger in different ways, and it's super exciting. Our biggest focus is this intention of inclusion and focusing on New Orleans writers and poets and artists especially, but then also being an international magazine. At this point, we are an international magazine, which feels pretty cool. So that's kind of us in a nutshell. And I think that these readers tonight kind of represent that. They're all from New Orleans, but all very different, and a big focus as well is kind of bridging the literary gaps between like people who don't have MFAs and people who are professors, and all these different sorts of really talented people kind of coming together. I think it's important to me, especially, to kind of see what everyone has to say, and this is kind of that sweet spot, I think, where we can have professors and street poets all being published and being heard. Yeah, and I have a team of editors, and some of them are on the call now. We have Maya Penn and Jacob Hoffman and Daiquiri Jones and Sky Jackson and Ian Monroe. I'm not gonna go too much into them, but they're making this happen with me, and I really appreciate it. Let's get started. We have 4 readers tonight. I'm just going to introduce them quickly right now, and then a little bit longer introduction in a second. We have Kelsey Wartelle. We have a Scribe Called Quess. We have Nikki Mayeux and Brianna Ladwig together for briefly, and then we have Rodrigo Toscano. So first we'll go with Kelsey. Kelsey is a friend of mine and one of the warmest people I know, a really great performance artist and actress, and a playwright who received the honorable mention for the 2018 New Works of Merit playwriting contest. And they have a couple of poems in the last issue of Tilted House Review, which is a review that we do biannually. And that's about it. Please help me welcome Kelsey Wartelle.
Thank you so much, Cameron. Not only a huge thank you for asking me to do this and for printing my poems, but also for really kind of kicking off my love affair with poetry, which started on a cold January night at the Rubber Flower Poetry Hour. I also want to give a huge thank you to Megan and Bill and everybody who has volunteered their time putting together this festival. It is my first time attending and reading at the New Orleans Poetry Festival. And I really also wanted to say thank you to Nikki and Quess and Rodrigo. I've seen all of you read at some point over the past few years. I have Nikki's book right here. And so thank you all for making work that's really inspired me, and I cannot wait to hear what you have to share with us. The first poem I'm going to read was printed in issue 2 of the Tilted House Review, and it's called August, Act 1. August, Act 1, scene, back patio. Maybe I insist on sitting out here to write because I grow in places where you can't put the dead underground. The Venus flytraps on the picnic table, wilted black under August's cruelest blessings, still green at the stems. He left them with her when he went back to the Northeast for good, for now. A string of kudzu, my favorite invasive species, died on the vine trying to climb the gutter. It takes me all of the last 3 days of this month to take it down. I'm losing track of what has been planted here intentionally. So that's August, Act 1. The second one I'm going to read is an Easter poem. I wrote this yesterday, and like many of you, I'm sure, in the last year, I celebrated it a little bit differently this year. And it's called The Healing Spring. Today I rise, and the bread I bless is not a man's flesh, but a communion of earth's bounty, molded by the devotion of human hands, nourishing a body that is reteaching itself what it means to forgive. I prayed this morning with a congregation of strangers under a wind chime choir directed by an ancient oak. On Friday, I poured wine for the first supper of chosen family, old and new, after paddling through stations across the Bogue Cheeto River. My last 40 days have been flowing with milk and honey, giving and receiving the sacrament of sensual anointment. This spring, I bloom, dancing my days in the sun with sweet olive, kissing the stars with night blooming jasmine. I give up the season of giving up. So that one was The Healing Spring. This next one I'm going to read is also printed in the most recent issue of Tilted House, and it's called Mangroves and Monglier. She said the sun burns you differently this far south. We're 4 hours from the Keys, and the water is somewhere between the aquamarine of her eyes and the brackish bay of mine that matches the color of her dad's old house on Telemachus, still welcoming the corner long after the flood line faded out. She hasn't been back in so long, she's almost forgotten how to swim in water you can't see to the bottom of. Salt buries us thick like the wall of mangroves that hum at night as we sail through the box of wine our grandmother returned with when I let her go into the liquor store by herself. And that was Mangroves and Monglier. The next one I'm going to read is a slightly longer one. It's called My Grandma's Red Tank Top. Acetate clothing is great for holding on to freshly applied, undisturbed, and unrepentant lipstick ruby red, but can't hold a shape unless it is bought 10 sizes smaller than yours. After draping it over 2 generations of women with an ache in the center of their backs underneath it. It can sculpt you in any light, hold you closer than any of the arms who graced it, grazed it, given it away, granted you wishes you didn't know you could make when you pulled it out of the donation bag. Can an heirloom live in the man-made threads of a department store hand-me-down? A copy of thousands before it and since molded your figure into believing that it could manifest desires that don't kindle in the ashes you used to fall asleep watching. You find them when you wear it during both seasons of the year, through nights with air so heavy it sticks when it drags its lips along your collarbone, slipping off and spending the night on someone else's floor, smelling skins that it'll long outlast. You're not sure how many hurricanes it's survived before you, hanging up in the closet, hanging on longer than they should have, still as red as synthetic dye allows. Let's see, I have two more shorter ones. This next one is called I-10 East at 7:48. I'm sure some of you will recognize this drive. The Shell refinery in Norco lights up like the downtown skyline, a golden fringe against a salmon pink strip, lashing a sky that has otherwise tucked away the daylight under a slate of stratus clouds. The city's glow stretches out just enough to threaten your focus on your last mile over water, but you gracefully slide down into the wash of sodium bulbs and concrete that hovers throughout the suburbs. These highways have replaced prayers in the fibers of memory that permeate my veins. Do they connect my past or my future? I guess it depends on the day. Okay, so I have one more for you all, and it is called The Next Time She Leaves You. The next time she leaves you, I'll remain, spinning with silk on the levee, swirling my glass in the dark tile corner, ember meeting your harbor light glow. We'll walk in silence through marshes we'll eventually mourn. You'll keep a seat at the table and hold my hand across it. We'll share a bottle of wine from the estuary and finish with coffee on the porch in the morning. I'll keep the salt from your kisses till I rinse them in the spring. By August, I'll calcify like barnacles, clinging to a bright red sloop in the harbor, as a famous poet once called women like me. Try to rid me and I'll cut your hands open, carving my space to be held the next time she leaves you. And that is all I have for you all today. Thank you so much again for being here, and thank you to those who created this space for creating this space.
Thank you, Kelsey. Always such a pleasure to be in your presence. Awesome. Thank you. Cheers. Yeah. All right. Our next poet is Quess, and Quess you probably heard on the opening night of this poetry festival, which was a powerful evening. And if you didn't, you're very much lucky to be in his presence again. Quess is a poet and a playwright and an educator and an activist, and a two-time National Poetry Slam champion. Here is Quess, everybody.
Hey, good evening. It's good to be here. It's good to be sharing words again, coming out of this year-long drought. So appreciate Cameron, Tilted House, the whole platform for creating space for poems, New Orleans Poetry Festival. Good to be back. Good to be back in poetry community. So yeah, we got limited time, and I got a year worth of stuff stacked up in me, so I'm gonna just spill y'all. I'm not gonna get too much disclaimers here. Mostly new, a little bit of old. I will say, unfortunately, the universe does not want me to read certain poems tonight because my Microsoft Word is not letting me open them. And that would be 2 out of the 3 poems that I had the privilege of putting inside of Tilted House. So again, shouts out to y'all and thank y'all for that. But unfortunately, only got one that I can read for y'all tonight. But I promise it'll fit just right. All right, start with a haiku. There are no good white people, only good people undoing their whiteness. Gentrification in 5 parts. A play on the senses. Which smells like lemon pledge of bologna mixed with a dash of gutter punk funk. Sounds like a churning coffee bean grinder set to a backdrop of new construction. Can't tell the difference between the grind outside and the grind inside. Sounds like number 9, your cappuccino vanilla mocha on the Cypress Hill latte's done. And sorry, man, but we don't have any vacancies for occupants of 3 or more. Looks like a boarded up home in new repair next to a freshly refurbished one. Fresh coat of paint still glistening. Looks like a rigid white girl's jawbones and her pet pit bull snarl. Like a band of scraggly headed hopefuls riding bikes 10 feet in the air past a wrinkled old brown woman on her porch. Looks like looking at woman's eyes with a swore she just seen an alien ship. Looks like a look the hopefuls never give. If the word aloof could campaign for a picture in a dictionary, it would put a Nikon 360 camera on those kids. Tastes like nothing, and yet somehow still familiar. Like your mama's favorite dish, but she forgot all the seasoning, you know, or too much of everything you never asked for, and when you got it, it didn't much apply to you. Like a cappuccino vanilla goes with a Cypress Hill latte with a side of care. Feels like something ain't quite put my finger on it when it keeps slipping from my grasp. How I identify what keeps disappearing like a floorboard slipped from beneath your feet. Then the whole room, then the whole house. Then all of a sudden, brand new floorboard, brand new house, but no more you. Feels like colonization in a latex glove, like a slow burn that only melts all your skin off 10 years after the fact. Like, I think I'm getting fucked, but I'm not quite sure. It feels like never getting to come out the kitchen when company comes. Like, been working in the kitchen my whole life, and they just up and hired a whole new staff out the blue, just like that. Told me my recipes ain't good here no more. Told me the rest of my patrons don't like my ingredients. Said it wasn't cappuccino vanilla on a Cypress Hill latte with a side of kale enough. Told me they got some new cooks now. But I could always go apply at the shop round the corner. Only wasn't no shop round the corner. Told me, nice job, Uncle Ben. Anime, we sure do appreciate your service. Just so happens it's not needed around here anymore, but leave your kids. Your kids can stay. We've got a nice shiny new building to teach them in where they can learn all about our predecessors like Marco Polo and Christopher Columbus. So one day, when they grow up, they may not always know when we're going to show up, but they'll always know us when we get here. All right, there's a little oldie but goodie right there. In my book, Sleeper Cell, you can cop a copy if you like. I'll put a link in the chat. Let's keep it going. And then another old white man is another old white man. The black boy reaches, open palms to the blue, sky behind his eyes. From it dangles a body of flame, feet kicking beneath his pupils, hovering just above his mouth, a Vermont landscape, syllables snipped and kempt as suburban lawns on, tamed tongues pasture, passions pasteurized to be made palatable for, pomp and circumstance in, house of the privileged, stilted on spine and femur of, black grandma's grandma, galvanized the bones when, skinless pink-faced man say, from New Orleans, huh? You live in a dangerous neighborhood? Black boy all eager, good sport in Hunger Games, not knowing he pray say, it's New Orleans, what neighborhood ain't dangerous. Laughter from the skinless pink-faced man, laughter from the ghost pale college kids tending the bar, as if to suggest, pour me another. Skinless pink-faced man say, you teaching a poor and shitty school? When you gonna do something about that poor and shitty school? More pale laughter spills, their cup runneth over. Black boy lips seal like casket, feet flail behind his eyes, embers rain down, tongue all smoke and ash. The sound of weapons being formed. And they kept asking why all our poems sounded the same, why all our words wrapped themselves around race and gender, oppression and revolution like there was nothing else. while the threads of our tropes wove themselves into ropes, knotted nooses fastened round the swollen necks of guilty men, while our voices clanged from microphones like heavy metal against rock, the heat in our throats, the smoldering cinder in a welder's lab, metaphors melding worlds of pain unknown to them, so our anger be alloy of both black and poor, poor and queer, queer and woman, woman and trans, all things spewed hot and rich from the earth, born unrich and unwhite. We be lava's offspring, condensed by time and struggle into things rock hard and impenetrable, broken by struggle, melted by time, into all things fluid, malleable, welded by words into weapons too hard for you to fuck with. So now we something like tools of battle, similes slicing through midair like swords built for this. It's funny. All that whiteness knows of war seems like they know the sound of weapons being formed, of distant armies gathering, of infantries collecting like karmic debt at your front door. Black thoughts of a middle class comeuppance, but then wary, lest you be lassoed by the hood, boy. Be noosed back to the wretched limbs of your family tree. Lest all you try ghosting come back, haunt your happy home, creep up your children's spines like that crackhead did your mama's fire escape that one night in Brooklyn. Just a vagrant truth looking to be fed might set flame in their hearts, turn it kitchen and whip their bloodline like it's stir fry, leave embers in their throat, turn their mouth trap house till they open it and you get all the smoke. Got a whole gang of ancestors and tar babies blackening their speech, tap dancing and war chanting on their teeth. Got a little Harriet in there, little CLR with a splash of Garvey, little Rodney, Huey, and Sabrina with a pinch of Pookie for good measure. Some Sambo and Hambone up in there too, yeah. While you steady talking Colgate and Ivy League dreams, talking family crest and crease your bleached tooth smile for preemptive palatability with precious pomp and circumstance of the pallid people, talking enunciate, talking from Tarking, talking blood and dust brushed off battle royal shoulders, talking son, take these rocks, I handled the boulders, never mind the mountain you never should have had to climb in the first place. Just to peek at a false summit, glimpse a shimmer of a charade to know the Sisyphean slide back into the bowels of all you ran from when the towers topple, when stolid ivory turns fumbling chalk, when it all falls down. All right, I'm gonna give y'all a couple more as we segue into this piece that Tilted House made a home for. This one right here, really inspired by last year. It was actually a Facebook status got published in another local house. I'm not going to say their name since, you're not exactly Nike and Reebok competition or anything, but, I'm going to just let it be Tilted House's house tonight. But nonetheless, shouts out to those people who gave a home to this Facebook status turned published poem. On the flames of my bones and how they got there. Here's the part where we pull out, Here's the part where we pull out our war stories and tales of survival. Say, I too have known the crawl space beneath safety and the wanting ground heaving hungry from below. The part where I tell you of me and my brother and my best friend at 17 in my mom's caravan riding up Canal Street in teenage black boy joy before it even had that name, till 4 unmarked cars surround us like wanted revolutionaries, like political dissidents, or preyed upon stars, and our names ain't even Salvador or JFK or Tupac, so we can't make heads or tails of why we looking down the barrel of a Glock 9. As one white man says, get the fuck out the car. And the other barrage of white faces formerly suited for battle, spotted with just one not so fly boy in their putrid buttermilk, descend on our young frames, shove us to the ground in cuffs as they step on our backs like we the street itself. And once the identification of the usual suspect reveals itself as mistaken, they release us back to our lives and tell us we're lucky it wasn't worse. Here's the part where I remember my mother in my passenger seat after the fat white man in sheriff blues struts away from our car like he just finished a good steak, his shoulders belching the arrogant fog of a man who just consumed slain meat. And after the 20-minute stop off the interstate, Moms understands every morsel of rage coated my skin since 13 when my daddy died. And my girlfriend and my passenger seat on Basin Street, her frame heaving like barely escaped prey when the overzealous white man in uniform exits his face from hovering over her, having just yanked her door open, shoulders cased in bulletproof, steely blue-eyed joy cased in flinch just right so I can attack just so, as he stares at me, telling me how this checkpoint is all for our good, to keep folks safe from some nearby danger. But there are too many stories at this point, and none of them matter other than the way they dissolve prematurely like fossils rushed into fuel to fire my today, my tomorrow, and our forever war on this planet where we hurry the mending of old wounds in preparation for the inevitable ones salivating to replace them. My scars are hungry mouths carved into my left arm, my right fist, my fractured psyche. They all say patriarchy's bastard son and white supremacy's dark shadow. They say capital and the belief therein schizophrenic clapback. They all say privatized property turned human fights back, closes an angry door, bars entry forever, opens windows only for a glimpse at light, a release of the flames, marinating in marrow. I push it up a little bit. It wasn't all war last year. Got a little glimpse at love, and that's where this poem came from. That Tilted House gave a home for. So I'm going to do that and two more and pass it on. This is called Sometimes Love is a Baseline. Sometimes love is a baseline, is a hum of desire, tremors the heart and rattles the bones to a slight harmony, cause your feet to move to its rhythm like a block party beckoning from a distance unknown. Sometimes you get to the block party and it's all good. The bodies gyrate and sync. The music be that new mixed with a sample of something old your pops used to play on vinyl, talking about, yeah, this is where it all started, son, and when the nonsense is done, what it's going back to. The food smell like somebody grandma put their whole foot in it, baptizing the air and flooding your nostrils with warmth, and all the steps and the rhythm and the movement of hands to flesh of what they need to feel and tongues to touch what they won't taste be all good till a sudden violence erupts from some place unseen and rooted in something deeper still, maybe seen and unseen, in bodies disperse like a flock of pigeons, never to return to this place and time again. But you can bet they remember what called them in the first place. That bass line be humming in their bones in the days and weeks and months to come, and they be listening to its murmur, pining for its breath, trying to find their way home. All right, two more real quick. I'm gonna dedicate these to the water, to Mommy Water, to Yemaya, or whatever sea goddess that you like to uphold and venerate. This one is going to her from me, for Yemaya and Olokun. The wind and the water take selfies in my mirror. Pardon the rivers on my face, but I seen too many closed into earth without their insides ever seeing the light of day. What say you when your lover's womb is the middle passage the ancestors never made their way through? When spirits are thrown overboard before they ever reach shore, lines under my eyes, all silt and sink, every poet's words about motherland or sea crossing was a holy hand of nature. Was Oya's breath whispering gales of the decades old levees behind my eyes, watched parts of me crumble into an ocean. Wide as God's mouth last year. Watched infinity pick its teeth with my little traumas. Marathon got a little brisk, thinking no one's at the finish line waiting, but learn how to pat them thighs and firm up the hind parts regardless. Of course my masculinity's fragile, I said to everyone in particular. Ain't shit but water and sand grown old. Tried a fresh new look last year and the water had its way with me. Got beached wells on my cheeks the shape of my daddy's last night and the night she said it's over. At least I got timestamps for my grief on this course. My old self passed on the baton last year, said the sack of bricks can die with him. I'm trying to adjust to the weight loss. Something about feeling light as a feather makes me feel naked and afraid of heights at the same damn time. Yeah, sure, it was me the whole time. Poetry is therapy session, is public performance or service announcement. Take your pick, everyone's invited. This avalanche slowly is brought to you by sporous sickness gone viral, meets another snuff tape gone the same, meets mildew round the yellowed edges of once sacrosanct paper holding the pictures of dead old white men, meets the chained and bound descendants of the chained and bound, locked in the belly of a beast, packed tight as undigested food in a raging sea, rising with the ferment of ancestors gone too soon, which brings me back to that levee behind my eyes. It never stood a chance, nor some of my best laid plans. This year's resolutions are small fish blurred beneath the rivers falling from my face. I can almost see clearly now. My face is the beach after the storm. Best laid plans, all karmic driftwood mixed with toppled infrastructure. Ego is a house meant to be broken. Which way from here? I asked everything in particular. The wind said, follow the water. All right, this last poem is called Fluid Tension. Thank you, Rodrigo, can't wait to hear you. And this is from a movie called MFAers This Time that is coming out on April 24th. Stay in touch, I would love for y'all to come and check out the movie. But this poem is called Fluid Tension. Not only a dedication to Mayeux, but dedicated to the very material reality we're in right now in terms of water crises. Shouts out to Florida, who also gets a shout out in this poem, who, if y'all saw the news tonight, is under severe duress right now because of environmental crises. This is Fluid Tension. There's a fluid phantom at our feet, whispering of things to come. The city is a sinking ship, like all the world. Sinkholes carved in the hull of this vessel, glimpsing at impending worlds below. How much longer can we float? Wetlands fading beneath us, like a black boy's tapered edges, like his granddaddy's hairline, like a Kentucky mountaintop. Say the whole world coming full circle. Say we becoming ourselves. Say we gonna be what we made of before we know it. Say the human body is 60% water. The planet, home to 7 billion human bodies, is 71% water. Say the apple don't fall far from the tree. The plankton don't crawl far from the sea. We land dwellers be mostly at home in society's riverine, come hearkening back to our aquatic beginnings like babes to the teat of mommy water that birthed us, gorging ourselves on our very source, and we are what we eat. You don't eat, you don't work, you don't work, you don't eat. But what happens when the fruit of your labor is a harvest of rot, is a gross yield of corpses, when the land is a body broken at the hands of capitalist greed, and the soil we toil seeps sickness in a river run red with the blood of the living. When the water tries to tell us its story, it chokes on itself. Can't speak beyond the uranium in its lungs, the sewage in its gut, tries crooning a blues about the lead in its belly through its oil-heavy throat, but just gargles up a blackened mumble about the cadavers on its tongue, smothered in saran wrap. And we drink this water, and we speak this water, and we are this water, this sick body trying to heal itself, to envision a horizon beyond all this infirmary, but can't see beyond the floodlines, and our eyes leak water at the sight of lost loved ones whose bodies held too much of what the water did. Ask the San Juan River about Navajo cancer rates in Arizona. Ask a grandmother in Flint how much working class sweat it take to fill a number 2 pencil. Ask a mother with 3 jobs in New Orleans how many pencils it take to match the lead in her son's brain. Can he bubble in the answers to the test with telekinesis? Ask the asshole of this country what it got to say to the mouth. And through ore-rigged teeth, Louisiana tells Michigan we the same shit, just different toilet and texture. Asking Aquifer Lake, Michigan what its life amount to, and it say, ask Nestle. Nestle say the water gives freely, but for you, it'll cost. The darker the skin, the higher the premium. Black Lives Matter and such. Ask 10,000 black homes in Detroit the price of they dried up pipelines in a pandemic, at least the cost of our skins, they say. Ask the broken land what the endless sea cost. The Gulf Coast say, see my cracked jaw and receding hairline. Florida opens its mouth, a banshee, unleashed, all blackened gums and muted screams. 1.4 billion of receipts fall out. Say, see 25,000 sinkholes in 10 years. See 27 purchased politicians dangling from dollar sign nooses. See the ground pummeled back into its source, the land, a cracked jaw threatening to swallow us whole. Watch it sink like falling stock and employment rates in a depression. Watch sorrow fill the streets, disguised as bravado and rage as the sea rises like a people tired of the weight on their backs sprouting wings, feathered by the water protecting keepers of this land. The world's on fire, they say. Whisper beneath our feet, say, don't worry, the water's coming. The people too. Thank y'all.
Damn, thank you, Quess. That last one was great. And thanks again for being here 2 times in 5 days. I really appreciate that. All right, wow. Our next two people, one's a poet and one's an artist, was Tilted House's first title. It kind of fell into place in this beautiful way. My friend and I, Joe, started this online magazine devoted to COVID and focusing on that and the people everyone who was dealing with it. And one poem that came through was by Nikki Mayeux, and I fell in love with the poem and eventually ended up meeting Nikki, and we decided to publish this manuscript together called The Ordinary Time. And her friend, and now my friend too, Brianna Ladwig's art is the cover art and also the illustrations. And it couldn't have been easier or more fun or anything. It was just the perfect team, I think. Nikki is a queer ex-evangelical writer and educator, and does several projects uplifting ex-fundamentalist and queer voices, including Sanctuary and My Queer is Sacred. And Brianna is an ink and watercolor artist from Kansas, or is in Kansas now, creating work that revolves around generational healing and Black joy. I don't know who wants to go first, but I'll just introduce you both. Maybe Nikki, you can start off. This is Nikki Mayeux and Brianna Ledwig.
So I see Nikki. Brianna is oh, I see Brianna. Okay, I'm unmuting y'all both. Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks so much. This is a real treat to be here tonight and to get to hear poetry and to share poetry. I'm going to hand it off pretty quickly to Bree to talk for a few moments about what the project meant to them and what illustrating the book meant to them, or whatever you'd like to share, Bree. But felt very strongly that that I wanted Bree here with me tonight because this book is very much a poetry and art book, and very much a collaborative effort. Bree and I are both queer. We are both come from ex-fundamentalist Christian backgrounds, and we are both mamas of 2. So we have a lot in common, and there was literally no one else I wanted to work with to illustrate the book. So Bree, if you want to hop on and just talk a little bit about the project, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I feel so honored to be here. Oh my God, thank you so much. Like Nikki said, we come from very similar worlds. I feel like, Nikki, you are my sister witch mama over there, that we are mirrors of each other in a lot of ways. And so it was easy to just feel deeply connected to your poetry. More than anything in this process, I learned priceless knowledge about the possibilities of collaboration with someone you are in alignment with. Listen, we're artists, we are new world builders, we are revolutionaries. So we don't settle anymore for working with people we aren't in alignment with. We have high standards, we have high standards. And when we are true to ourselves, the right co-conspirators show up. And I feel like this process was real proof of that. So I don't think either of us can go back now. The work itself, the illustrations, I feel like came from, images, liberatory images from my childhood of sensuality, of queerness that I did not have language for, but I still felt lit up by. I noticed that those images would kind of bubble up in the work, and then I'd realize later, oh, that's where that came from. I was a little girl and I was watching this movie, or I was reading National Geographic, and I just felt all of my glorious Blackness and queerness and motherhood even then. Some were inspired by dreams, some were inspired by visions that I saw, you know, at like a screen in front of my eyes as I read Nikki's poems. All in all, it was just such an honor to work on this book. I feel so lucky. And yeah, I think that's, if there's anything else y'all want to know, you should let me know, but yeah.
Drop your questions for Bree in the chat. Yeah, thank you so much. I echo like all of that. And the way that we built this book was basically, I just sent Bree the manuscript and asked them to illustrate whatever they wanted. So I just handed it off. And so Bree chose the poems that they wanted to illustrate. And I was thrilled with each one that they chose. So I'm going to read a couple poems from the book tonight and show you a couple of the illustrations, and then read two newer poems that are not in the book. So we'll start with one of my favorite illustrations that I think I remember when you first sent it to me, Bree, you were like, I don't know, it felt like it might have been a bit much. And I was like, it was absolutely not too much. It was just enough. And so I think you know the one. So this one is titled, The Widow Judith as Tallulah Bankhead defends her decision not to remarry after beheading Holofernes. You see, darling, men are like a slow gin fizz, good on a hot summer day, but not always worth the effort. You ever see a man's face lit up by campfire through tent cloth? I can tell you it looks the same coming or going, rimshot, wink, and you don't miss it like you think you will. I have grown tired of a long line of men standing like bowling pins between me and my life. That knife was my ticket to the theater of Leave Me the Hell Alone, and I am sitting in the balcony with a cigarette in one hand, a bump of Coke in the other, and a blade between my thighs. So this poem is based on a story in biblical and Jewish tradition about a widow who beheads the enemy general of an army after seducing him. And so that was that. And then this is the amazing illustration that goes with it. One of my favorites. This next one is called The Cicadas Humbly but Officially Request to Be Excluded from Our Poetic Metaphors. I don't know why they chose me to deliver their edict. It could have been simply that I was there at the right time, walking past the live oak tree on my way home, mine empty as a sieve. They flooded up from the ground in their terrible numbers, pleading. I told them I would do my best. They were very polite. The cicadas do hereby require us to cease their unconsenting involvement in our symbolism, including but not limited to change, rebirth, cycles, transformation, immortality, steadfastness, ecstasy, death. They understand this may come as a shock, and they are happy to offer a 30-day phase-out period, an interim that, to them, seems reasonable for us to scrub their names from our poems, remove their moltings from our altars, and trade in our art market jewelry without undue stress, either financial or mental. Yes, they know it's tempting. They know the significance of 13 in our numerologies, know our obsession with things that remain beyond view, even more so with things that change. And the exoskeletons, they do leave them so alluringly intact, so ripe for our machinations. But, and here they paused, lowering their voices to a more somber hum. The cicadas implore us to ask ourselves, is that the type of people we wish to be, the type that says they were asking for it, the type that rests and takes and feels sainted in the taking. The cicadas are taking back their power. And although they wish this conversation to remain amicable, we are friends and such old ones after all. They will not waver. They trust we wouldn't ask them to. From now, they need us to know they will be deciding what they mean. And here they paused, seeming to have reached the end of what they had rehearsed among themselves to say, the translucent shells even now beginning to pull from their bodies, cells unanchoring from cells, becoming and becoming and becoming and becoming and becoming and becoming. Here's the illustration for cicadas. This next one is called Valentine, and written for my husband, Mark. My love holds secret knowledge. He knows the feeling of ribs cracking under his frantic weight, begging the blood to flow this way and not that. 17, his mother. He knows that when you are the one to find them, the cops will yell at you for changing your blood-soaked clothes, for washing your hands. A thing I have never once in my life considered, that I still did not think of even after he pulled our son from inside me, unwinding the pulsing cord, the hot blood running down his arms, staining the hardwood floors of the house we bought with his inheritance. He knows how to witness life in the liminal spaces, the blue flash of oxygen, the acrid smell. A thing you need to know about my love is this: his life has been blood on the dining room floor and no one in sight. The kind of tabernacle you never really leave. A priesthood of grief and gardens. Switch windows. And we have two more poems that are not in the book. So this next one is called Where We Hid Her, and it's another reimagined biblical poem. And so it starts with a quote from 2 Kings 18:3-4. In the 3rd year of Hosea, son of Elah, king of Israel, Hezekiah, son of Ahaz, king of Judah, began to reign. He did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, just as his father David had done. He removed the high places, smashed the sacred stones, and cut down the Asherah poles. This is where we hid her. In our underwear drawer, behind the period-stained panties, behind the loose brick in the fireplace, under the olive tree in the east field, marked only by memory, sewn in the hem of our apron, between the joinery of the pig trough, and we hope she forgives us. Taped to the ceiling beam, sewn into the stomach of our daughter's doll, between the largest and second largest mixing bowls, in our grandmother's bridal chest, in our vaginas wrapped in linen, in the hollowed out leg of the birthing stool. And when it is time to pick up and move with the flocks, she comes with us in the secret places, even in the dirt under our fingernails when we can't find her in the east field, even in the splinters she leaves when our husbands, worse sometimes our daughters, rip her from our hands. And I guess I'm gonna end with a climate related poem as well. This last one is called Mothering During Climate Collapse. And it's inspired by another poem that I love called The World Keeps Ending, the world keeps ending and the world goes on by Franny Choi. There is no map for mothering on a planet in seizure. No doula for the abyss. When you see babies in apocalyptic movies, they're supposed to represent hope, but mostly you're just mad at the parents. How dare you with your brimming over and your hubris and your tumbling forward, contain yourself. Can't you see this is no time for milk breath and soft bellies? This is the moving sidewalk to oblivion. You can't bring them here. You can't offer them these monstrous choices, this insect holocaust, bedlam, white noise, erosion lapping at their ankles. If giving birth is not saying, I am ready to see what's next, then I do not know what birth is. And my loves, you are the last next thing that I can believe in. Motherhood of the fool's journey, blind corner motherhood, motherhood of the gorge, of the steep drop, of shoving poetry into your arms like claw hammers, machetes, trowels, spears. Here, take what you need. Please find the one that will do the job. I'll hold them off so maybe you can reach the next camp by nightfall. Thank y'all so much. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Brianna. It's good to see you both. That was amazing. Awesome. All right, we have one more poet. A lot of you very much know Rodrigo Toscano already, but for those of you who don't, he's a damn hoot. He actually, I met him at a couple of after party things, the after parties for the Poetry Festival, but kind of just was introduced to him more or less within this year. And we've talked a little bit and I learned a lot from him, and I teach him a little bit about Lindy Hop because he has this strange fascination with Lindy Hop like I do. So we have this kind of thing going on, which I really like. His work and books are all over the place. His most recent book came out through Counterpath, and it's this book called In Range, a lot about household items and household things. And it's just, I love reading it and rereading it. So here we go. This is Rodrigo Toscano, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Shout outs to Cameron, Tilted House, of course, NOPF crew, Kelsey, Quess, Nikki, and Brianna, comrades. Nice to read with you. This first one's called Homo Americanus, freeform hollering at the Lit Conference in syllabics. 1. No, we don't want you to breathe in, then out. No need to stand up, stretch out, twirl your wrists. Most assuredly, no incantations are being asked of you, not a single word. Know what, Jack? Jill? Scrap the 4 directions. Your identities and ours beside yours on a coat rack at the door, quite comfy. How much whacking can your piñata take? Yes, you stand on stolen land, you may now, zoons, methinks my station merits the ploy, which under these conditions is public, though you're planted on private property. We do acknowledge that the conditions, the 1,000 directions not to take after this after party we call anarcho-tyranny uberalis, or simply the finance oligarchy. Please be modest, slithering on the ground, scooping up treats, subtracting from the whole our allotments, our failed liberal schemes coming into view as we splinter up. 2, who won the prize? The prize among prizes. A prize of a prize, you might say, a win over one more prize to win, a prize won. Surprise, there's no prize for that, or for this. Piñata sticks swung blindly all at once is more to the point, bloody point, hobbling, stumbling onto the arena of culture. What's at a distance tracking it all? Or in close, poetics as detainee marks it a fugitive in mind and gut. We were just about to jump out of here as the smoking debris began to cool before the dawn of a more centrist hook'em. But here we are, herding piss-poor students into the bare halls of career poet. There's exactly 5 things a prize can do. 1, it bestoweth wings to the wingless works. 2, it staunches today's systemic wounds. 3, perchance it payeth the rent. Golly. 4, it groweth wings on the fugitive. 5, it clippeth the fugitive's new wings. Strategies, recalibrating strategies. tactics, kind of work, kind of what might not is you. Games abound this side of the barricades. One of them is self, TM, as designed by you. But here's another pinata at hand, popped out from nowhere, perplexing, tempting. Fellow insurrectionists, lend an ear. Identity, thinking, stalls, hard reset. And bullhorn this all night long, publicly. Old universalisms pen us in, where we mean to run with the new story. New stories reject catastrophizing, refuse a foregone tragic comedy, stage an alternative futurity, identity thinking stalls, hard reset, blindfolded, homo Americanus, grab this trusty stick, grip it mightily, raise it high, and on the downswing, crack it. Now the bards scramble, now the bards back up, scraps of self whose purpose they know not what, though it's arousing, all this newfound pep. Here's two sonnets. The day-to-day existence of people, if that doesn't change, then what is all this? These protests, these stances, rage, pieties, passionate words, eloquent poetry. What's the use of any of it today if tomorrow and many days to come aren't shaped differently, aren't lived differently, which calls the question, what do people want? What do they want? Not just what they don't want. Let's list it. Let's study the list closely. And before these items are pinned to life, let's have that conversation. What is life? What kinds of life forms are we, all of us? And what's best for each and everyone here? Another sonnet. This one's called Flesh. It's imperative we keep flesh intact. We don't want perforations, abrasions, or undue irritations marring it. We also want to guard coloration of whatever hue hones to its nature. The smallest capillaries must breathe free. When a breeze fans it, we love the perk up. When flesh grazes it, we love the perk up. The heat or cold of curiosity. It's imperative we keep flesh intact. Painters, if they ever make the comeback, might plumb flesh, flush out commonality. Poets, if they ever make the comeback, might suture flesh, restore integrity. This next one's called Betimes, a rhapsody for activists. Betimes you stall, and by stalling, rocket. Betimes you're a dead bored worker. Betimes a devoted worker without deep purpose. Betimes you're a thrill-seeking slacker. Betimes a genius co-worker without peers. You chose this. You chose dialectical wreck, sensational. You pounced toward direct, intense unknown. You've sloughed off crooked dick nationalism. You've blown up indolence, on some occasions, eloquence. Who can Velcro on a plasticized red wig when you want it? Who can supply you a bronze lion future of victory? Betimes you're a pre-pounce poet, posing as pouncer. Betimes you're a post-pounce as twitchy twitch, not whatever, never whatever. But this, you're a spectral socialist savage. You're a spectral socialist civilizer. You're a spectral socialist dirt clod on diamond. Who can futurize the people without the trademark? Who enacts fire canister hierarchical reform? Betimes you carouse, and by carousing, arouse. Betimes you're a hella, as y'all say, car with hiss and claws. Betimes you're a devotee to love slamming you to the ground. Did you really choose this, Jim? Art thou chosen? Are you ascending now towards free-floating domes in the sky? Have you handily sloughed off sultry stance nationalism? Betimes nationalisms offer services left or right. Betimes intra-nationalisms show a way out for a fee. Who can hyperspatialize the people without coordinates? Who enacts supersymmetrical justice reform? You're a spectral socialist bit actor. You're a spectral socialist stunt double. You're a spectral socialist diamond fleck on demon dung. Besides, betimes you rocket, and by rocketing, stall. The times you stall, and by stalling, rocket. This next one's called The Revolution. Gray birds made of marble sky from the sky. Swamp oaks taking 2 steps forward if you look closely. Levee water levels rising exactly by 4 feet. New bridges made of glass suddenly appear on urban canals. Storefront signages swapping places, making sense. Picnics 2 feet below sea level in the thousands. Girls with brown eyes rolling boulders into pyramids of gold. Girls with blue eyes casting steel hooks onto silver gates. Girls with green eyes forming a field of grass to skip on. Red chromed out chopper cruising the streets, no rider. Purple sun painting 12 windows onto local birthing center. Hell, the word, the concept, scarring no children at this hour. Heaven, the word, the concept, wood cube and dank attic, rotting. 2-minute clip of brawny man battling an alligator loop mode. 1-minute clip of young boy twirling brawny man in loop mode. Sundown, western breeze fanning ice tower evaporations. Blank stare of a statue on an iron barge, seaward bound. Bats across a full moon portrait in a trash bin, flaming. Canoe made of pure sugar gliding over asphalt streets at midnight. 30-second clip of diamond tooth baby in loop mode. Bayou bugs onto 4th generation since yesterday morning. Yellow birds made of polyurethane come to a consensus. 15-second clip of upside down city skyline. Justice, the word, the vision in an orange cloud distending, glowing. 7.5-minute clip of pencil frolicking on white paper. 400-foot mound of multicolored masks and panties toppling. Deceased couple with brass canes crossing glass bridge at dawn. Traffic barricades napping again, if you take a glance. This next one is called Brown Lives. Brown lives, the phrase as is, don't matter in Mexico. The shades are endless. Where draw the line? You'd go quite mad. What matters in Mexico is lana, cold cash. How much, how far, the flow, what things, what folks you gather around you. Of course, colorism thrives in Mexico, weighs in, tips scales. But saying and insisting brown lives, the phrase as is sacred, is blurry, happy talk, won't supply the flow, the things, the folks you gather around you. The line, when drawn, would shift yearly, monthly. The haggle would matter to oligarchs a lot. The haggle would matter to academia even more. Brown lives, whole departments might thrive, service lines blurring, oligarchs, long game. Still though, colorism thrives in Mexico. It hurts. It works for some, for sure. Same families have winners and losers. It's important to confront colorism frankly, but lana, go see, take in, don't flinch, draw lines on top, down, below, both sides makes box. In Mexico, boxes matter, not lines that shift weekly, daily. You'd go quite mad demarking where, jumping back, jumping over, vying to drag shit here to there and back, stuck in a box in Mexico, decaled with Brown Lives Matter merch, donated by happy oligarchs of oil, of telecom, of finance, beachfront empires, foreground to hillside slums, background to nervous middlings, frozen between, undecided about line boxes which matter and why, earning zeal, spending zeal, to audit. Mexico lindo is necessary. The peso plunging today, 10%. All right, so this next one's called Männerbunde, which in German means men's club. exclusively men's club. And these Männerbundes were extant to the lead up to Nazism in Germany. They're basically Nazified, but they were men's clubs. Männerbunde. This is about here now. Männerbunde. Guns, shedfuls of them, you'll see, will not be the deciding factor in the big shift towards hemispheric autarky. No amount of rounds and clips hoarded in safes will rewrite labor laws that integrate Canadian, American, and Mexico biopower around a vision of itself protectively, economically, expansive culturally, interpose maps of watersheds, routes of produce, conduits of clean energy, lasered in on healthy work and stable housing. The big shift doesn't require belly crawling sharpshooters, grown boy camps, Männerbunde, sing-alongs, pining after dreams of becoming sovereign when all's entangled already, except not formally and equitably set to a higher order, resource-conscious, confident future, commandeering hemispheres, collective wealth, material and psychic, brave projection, bulwark against this anarcho-tyranny, faux nationalism, yacht excursion for winners of rigged outcomes, swamp monsters, becoming great again, promoting shedfuls of ammo, camo, grown-up boy lingerie, boudoir, Männerbunde, posing on towering trucks, performing sovereign when all's entangled already, but on a wobbly base with sideshows, gun shows, crouching, cowering, last gaps of sovereign kings, every man a serf, owning nothing, not mineral deposit, not beds of technology, not downstream planning, educational cargo, material and psychic, oblivious to rising forces, integrated, autarkic, prosperous homelands to thrive in, where crotch grasping, ton gun toting, enfeebled copes flicker out year by year. A hemispheric power looks outward with straight backs towards other autarkic regions, working on integration of a higher order, looking outwards mindfully, negotiating globes, collective wealth, material and psychic, and yeah, a few museums of nation states and even kinky cosplay might be entertaining on occasion to remind us of the age of anarcho-tyranny and its camo lingerie butlers on a leash. Männerbunde. Got just 4 more, so hang in. I really want to get this one in. This one's called Thing and Thang. Is the US a nation or just an economic platform? Because a nation is or can be an expression of its people. Platforms, as you know, support a ton of apps, but not all, and often not many at all. Nations, of course, excel at spinning origin stories that somewhat stick, actually too often stick too long. These days, folks are sick of platforms. They feel, but more than that, know the grift and graft. But also, folks can't, won't booty hop for nation, not for the past nor future, and for damn sure not now. All right, some are nation types, after school drama types, never miss a chance to flame in public, funk out in private. Others are pure platform, all day trendsetters, Brahmins actually, prancing like Jack and Jill nobodies. Yet others in idealist mode strain to marry the two, nation thing and platform thing, triangle into circle slot. Problem is, global Bobo's diet consists of broken idols, shards of meritocracies, the bootstrap scraps. Platform thang overamp promises a commonwealth of continuous profile updates, hexagons into pentagonal slots. Nation thing, flustered, promises to calm anxieties, save selves from intermixing and golden wheat fields swaying. Globo Bobo or if you prefer, Bobo Globo. Plays it safe, defers to neither thing nor thang, but tabulates and waits. GB might well be progressive or regressive. No one can say for now. Poltergeist inside us. This one's called Jumpstart Poems. Jumpstart Poem. I wonder too if jumpstart poems are worth it. I mean, poems meant to get at existential being itself. For a moment, brief moment, stripped of social causality, not having to take a publicly recognizable position, not having to, massage an affiliation, but instead riffing on what's elementally human, what's fundamentally common between folks, instead of about folks as proclaimed by folks. Jumpstart poetry that pivots around a few key words, words that for the moment, brief moment, hold the mystery, the puzzle of being in time on this planet, not even being on this planet, but wanting to. I wonder if jumpstart poems are a cop-out or a necessary moment, brief moment against cop-out, or maybe something in between, stuck, broken. I wonder if folks are almost always in between, copping out, not copping out, copping out, not copping out, but play it like it's one or the other, certain. I wonder if jumpstart poems even exist. And if they don't, whether they should exist, poems that pivot around certain words, words like being, folks, mystery, pivot. And if they do exist, whether they wonder themselves about poems that wonder about not wondering, fending off the hounds of lassitude, indolence, and surrender. Just long enough for a jump poem to start it all. And the last one is called Englisk. Done with you for the time being. Bayous, ducks, and Creole French, back and forth in Castilian. Laid off cooks in Tagalog, at water's edge in Celtic, stifling humidity in Vietnamese, stifling prospects in German. Construction continues in Mandarin. Ducks paddling by in Neapolitan. Back and forth in Nigerian. Minimal ambulance howl in Greek. Porsche flies by in Punjabi. Homeless placard flaps in Romanian. Back and forth in Bantu. Teens in jeeps in Persian. Picnickers gather in Hebrew. Ducks bobbling in Malaysian. Invisible 4G pulse in Norwegian. 3 F-15 streaking in Korean. Back and forth in Somali. Reeds random swang in Arabic. Ducks take flight in Russian. Beer can snapping in Chiramacha. Dark clouds gathering in Homa. Bayou clearing in Choctaw. Thank you.
Love it. Thank you, Rodrigo. Always a pleasure. One day, I guess we'll hear that Zoom poem. That's so funny, but maybe that'll be next time.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. That's our time. Thank you so much for hosting this, Jonathan and Megan and Bill and everyone else who's made this possible. Thanks, Jessica, for asking for us to have this. Kelsey and Quess and Nikki and Brianna and Rodrigo, thank you for being here. It's an honor to spend this space with y'all. Our books are available online, but they're also free if you want to read the PDFs of the review. We have a web magazine too, which is also free. And that's about it. It's growing every day. So thanks for being here, everybody. And we'll see you next time. There's so many great things happening this month, so check them out.
Good night, everybody.